his video very briefly. I think it was the cult video that I did. I mentioned the Bohemian Grove, and I thought I would do a video on that. So let's get cozy and learn about the Bohemian Grove. If you've never heard of it, the Bohemian Grove is actually a place where members of the Bohemian Club congregate every year. The club itself is 150 years old, so it's been around for quite some time. And you have to be a member of the Bohemian Club in order to be able to go to Bohemian Grove. They go hand in hand. The Bohemian Club is a secret, exclusive, members-only club for elites, extremely wealthy men such as CEOs of banks, politicians, military contractors, CEOs of oil companies, and some artists like celebrities, musicians and actors and that kind of thing. And it does get referred to as somewhat of a secret society. So the people in this club have a lot of influence and power over the social climate, the economy, and who make decisions that help shape the world as we know it. But this isn't how the Bohemian Club started. It was founded in 1872 by a group of journalists that were interested in the arts, because that's what Bohemian means, right? Bohemian means artsy types. And one of those founders was called Harry Edwards, who was an actor. The club began in a 6-story building on the corner of Bow Street and Taylor Street in the Union Square district of San Francisco, California. The clubhouse contains dining rooms, meeting rooms, a bar, a library, an art gallery, a theatre and guest rooms. And of course you can only go into this building if you are a member of the Bohemian Club. But it costs you a pretty penny to get in. To become a member of the Bohemian Club, you have to pay $25,000. And then on top of that, you have to pay a $5,000 fee annually to keep your membership. So it's a very prestigious club, of course, only for the wealthy, and usually you can only get into the club by either, I suppose in the beginning it was if you were an artsy type, you know, a writer, an artist of some kind, but as time progressed it was even more exclusive than that, and you either had to be invited in by the club itself, so they knew of you and reached out to you, or you get referred by a member. So maybe you have a family member that's already in the club, or a friend, and they refer you. And the waiting list is about 20 to 30 years to even get in. So it's likely that a lot of people probably like bring their sons in their 20s or something to like experience it, and then by the time they're 30 they should be accepted. In 1878 the club members started the retreat known as the Bohemian Grove. It was originally as a send-off for Harry Edwards because he passed away. And Bohemian Grove is located in Sonoma County, California, in a redwood forest, which are the tallest trees on Earth, which means it's a perfect place to host a secret society gathering. It provides protection and secrecy. No one's gonna know that you're even there, you know? Like, even in today's world, if they sent drones over, I still think you would have a hard time seeing anything because the canopies would be full, and I don't think a drone would get through. The Bohemian Grove retreat would be held every summer for around 2 weeks, and all these men in this club would get together almost like a Boy Scout style holiday where they would all have a good time out in nature together. Initially, it was a getaway spot for the members, mainly consisting of artists and writers, to, get away from the world, relax, clear their minds, and just leave their worries behind. And today's members and former members still claim that that's what it is to this day. It's where the bigwigs can get together and get hammered and let loose without thinking about the real world. But there are theories that more nefarious things happen at Bohemian Grove, considering the types of men who attend this retreat. Because somewhere along the way, this secret club became a place for some of the wealthiest, most powerful men to come together, and it was no longer just a place for Bohemian artists and writers. When Oscar Wilde visited the Bohemian Club in 1882, he was heard commenting that he had never seen so many well-dressed, well-fed, business-looking Bohemians in all his life. So it wasn't what it once was. Some of these wealthy men that became members are Richard Nixon, Herbert Hoover, George Bush Sr. and Jr., Clint Eastwood, Jimmy Carter, William Casey, who is a former CIA director, Harry Kissinger, Mark Twain, and Bing Crosby, just to name a few. And every single Republican US president has been a member since 1923. Some Democrats have also been members. So it's clear that in order to become a member of this club, you have to have wealth or power, either through your own achievements or being born into it in a specific family. The club is known to have very conservative political beliefs and has mainly conservative or Republican members. And there are some other big names that, if you're into the world of conspiracy theories, you've probably heard of, and that is the likes of the Rockefellers and the Morgans. The members of these families are extremely powerful on the world stage, so it makes you wonder what conversations they're having when they all get together. And the club is strictly men only. No women or children are allowed to become a member. And there are around 2,400 members in the club. I'm not sure if that's still the same number today, but that's what it was a few years ago, and it's difficult to find out information about this club because it's so secret. So, the Bohemian Grove is essentially a giant, privately owned, 2,700-acre campground in the middle of the forest. It has an open-air dining circle that can seat 1,500 people, and there are about a dozen or so different camps within it with their cabins, and each camp has its own distinct reputation and famous patrons. For example, George Bush Sr., Walter Cronkite, and NASA astronaut Frank Borman are known to have favoured a camp known as Hillbillies. And Herbert Hoover was a long-time occupant of the Caveman Camp. One of the most prestigious camps, called the Owl's Nest, housed Harvey Hancock, who was Eisenhower's campaign manager during the 1952 American election, Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, oil magnate Edwin Pauly, and Nobel Prize-winning chemist Glenn Seaborg. So big names. So as I said, every year these wealthy elite men gather in June or July for 2 weeks, and the whole event is top secret. There's a no cell phone policy. You're not allowed to bring or take into the grove any type of device that can communicate with the outside world. They have tons of surveillance, cameras everywhere, and multiple guards barricaded all the different entrances, locals in the area, so you can't even get into the parking lot if you're not a member. And they're also protected by the local police and sometimes the Secret Service when they're having this retreat. So something pretty important has got to be going on, because why are they so dead set on keeping everyone out and keeping it a secret? It makes you wonder what they're getting up to. Why do they meet up once a year, and why is it so protected? If they're just hanging out, why all the secrecy? You'd think, since most of them are business people or related to business in some way, that they'd be having business discussions at this retreat, but they actually have a motto that says, "Weaving spiders, come not here," which is a line taken from Shakespeare's A Midsummer's Night Dream, which essentially means leaving business behind. So they make claims that they don't do business deals or anything like that at the retreat. It's just a time for them all to hang out and party and have a good time. That's obviously what they want us to think, but that's actually not the case. Business has been done there in the past. It's a huge political networking place, especially for Republicans, so they definitely don't leave business or political matters out of their conversations. In 1950, Dwight Eisenhower actually gave a really important premier political address at the Grove, and it really helped him to network with other people in his party, and he ended up getting that Republican nomination. In 1963, Nelson Rockefeller was wanting to run for president, and he flew into the Bohemian Grove and gave a lakeside chat. In 1967, Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan met at the Bohemian Grove to work on a political deal. The deal was that Reagan would run for presidency only if Nixon did not. And in Nixon's memoirs, he talks about how important being a member of the Bohemian Club is to your political success in America. He said, "If I were to choose the speech that gave me the most pleasure and most satisfaction in my political career, it would be my lakeside speech at the Bohemian Grove in July 1967. Because this speech traditionally was off the record, it received no publicity at the time, but in many important ways, it marked the first milestone on my road to presidency." So, clearly, politics and business does happen at the Bohemian Grove, and some very important conversations are had. Even major things such as the first hydrogen bomb. Dr. Edward Teller, who is known as the father of the hydrogen bomb, reserved the grounds in September of 1942, where he, Robert Oppenheimer, and Nobel Prize-winning physicist Ernest Lawrence had discussions that ended up leading to the creation of the Manhattan Project and the atomic bomb. So it's clear that this isn't just a casual, fun, business-free hangout zone. They're talking about how to build the world's biggest weapons at this club. A lot of people think that when they get together, they discuss events of the world and how they can introduce things that they want to happen, or how events can be manipulated for their desired outcomes, to ensure that society stays under the direction and control of corporations, government, and media. Now, luckily for us, we do know a little bit about what goes on inside the Bohemian Grove, thanks to InfoWars' Alex Jones, who managed to sneak into the Grove in the year 2000. Now, obviously, Alex Jones is a controversial character. He's a huge conspiracy theorist with some wild perspectives, so I take all his opinions with a pinch of salt, but the recordings that he managed to capture inside showed some interesting things, such parade of men dressed in red hooded robes, which gives me Eyes Wide Shut vibes, sometimes carrying torches, are on a stage at the side of a lake, which has a giant 40-foot tall owl statue that sits behind the stage watching over them whilst this ceremony is taking place. The owl is known as Moloch, which is an interesting name to give it because in the Hebrew Bible, Moloch is a demon that is a symbol of destructive forces or systems demanding excessive sacrifice, like war or oppressive ideologies. In modern interpretations, Moloch is used metaphorically for any relentless system that consumes people or values, from capitalism to war. So that's an interesting little fact that the owl's name is Moloch. So during the ceremony, they're all on stage in their robes with their torches, and then some other men come onto the stage carrying a wooden box, a bit like a coffin, which inside of it is an effigy of a human body. So it's like a wooden skeleton that's been stuffed with straw, and they call this effigy Care. As they carry Care down to the owl stage, members then dress up as tree spirits, which convince the other members watching the show to leave their cares behind. They sing a song, and the priest tells the members, "Shake off your sorrows with the city's dust, and scatter to the winds the cares of life." They then put Care on some type of altar and burn it, saying, "Begone, dull Care, fire shall have its will of thee. Begone, dull Care, and all the wind make pity with thy dust. Hail fellowship's eternal flame. Once again midsummer sets us free." So it looks like a fake human sacrifice, and whilst it's burning, all the members are supposed to be letting go of their cares and worries about the real world. A lot of people, including Alex Jones, believes that this isn't just a wooden effigy, they think it's an actual human sacrifice. I think that's a stretch. I don't think that anything that crazy is happening, but who knows? I mean, maybe in the past something like that could have happened. I feel like the further back you go, the more likely something like that is, but I doubt that's what's happening. But something interesting to note about the owl being such a large symbol of the Bohemian Grove is that apparently on the $1 bill you can see an owl-like shape peeking its head over the edge of the semicircle of the dollar. And so a lot of people wonder if that's connected to the Bohemian Club and their influence over the American economy. Apparently many members of the Bohemian Club have small owl figurines in their homes, and they seem to be something that they worship. And at the end of their stay at the camp, another play is performed known as the Grove Play. It's important to remember that women are not allowed into the club, whether as a member or working there. So supposedly these plays that they put on called hijinks are quite sexist and degrading towards women. And if there are any female parts in the plays, then the men dress up as women themselves in drag. And every year it's a brand new play. So one is never repeated, and these plays cost upwards of $150,000 to put on. And this is a big part of what they do at the Grove, is performances, which is really funny to think about considering these are all like business professionals and presidents performing plays for each other in strange costumes. But whatever There's also reports of the members trying to get hold of lots of different types of drugs in the local area for these gatherings. Again, does not shock me. If they're going there to let loose, I imagine there's tons of drugs, tons of alcohol, prostitution, just anything and everything is probably there. In 1978, the club was formally charged with discrimination due to the fact that women are not allowed to be a part of it. But the members fought back, arguing that they wouldn't be able to urinate properly if women were present at Bohemian Grove, because they don't have like proper toilet facilities. It is like a summer camp, so they tend to urinate in the wilderness, and I don't think there are many actual toilets there, if any at all. So the court ruled in their favour, but that decision was eventually overturned. However, the Bohemian Club asked to see the judge's manager by filing an appeal with the California Superior Court. At the subsequent trial, they argued that being male should be considered an occupational qualification, whatever that means, and so women simply aren't qualified to work at the Grove. And the court once again ruled in the club's favour. And it turns out that the California Superior Court judge who reached this verdict was known to have attended Bohemian Club events on several occasions. Shocker. Of course, the judge was part of the club, like, it just makes so much sense. These people are so powerful and wealthy and influential. They've probably got someone in every department that can help them out, right? Makes sense. So the main conspiracy surrounding the Bohemian Grove is that the cremation of care ceremony is actually a real human sacrifice, and that they're doing it as an offering to their owl god Moloch in order to keep their dominion over the country and the world. As I said, I don't think real human sacrifices are happening. I think it's probably what it sounds like. It's just a place for all these wealthy, powerful white men to party, take drugs, and just get up to no good together. However, I don't believe that business deals don't take place there. It's quite clear that business deals do happen, and I think a lot of ideas are thrown around, and it could be the place at the start of many plans for bankers, scientists and politicians to help keep their control in place over the populace and remain a dominant force in the world. I think, that goes without saying. If all those people are in the same place, they're definitely going to be having discussions about who knows what. We know that these people influence our world majorly, so I imagine they have a lot of things to say to each other when they meet up. And that is the mysterious Bohemian Grove. That's all the information we have on it. As I said, it's like a top secret thing, so it's really difficult to find out lots of information, but there are videos online that you can watch. You can find the Alex Jones video of him sneaking in and recording some of it, and I think at one point he approaches a member and asks them questions about it, and they get visibly agitated and very frustrated with him for even mentioning it. That's how secret this thing is. So yeah, I think it's a very important thing for these people. However, I wonder if it still exists in terms of if they still use the Bohemian Grove now that lots of people know about it. I wonder if they've changed location. I don't know. And I guess we'll never know unless someone tries to sneak in again. As I said, when Alex Jones did it, it was in the year 2000, so that was quite some time ago now. And I think people have tried to do it since then. I actually watched a video today whilst I was creating the script of someone trying to get into the Bohemian Grove, I think last year, but it wasn't when people were there, it's when it was empty. So I don't know how many people have attempted or managed to get in whilst the gathering is taking place, but even when empty it looks kind of creepy, I'm not gonna lie. It was all these wooden benches like facing a stage, and yeah, I don't know, there's just something a little bit creepy about it. And like I said, when you consider that it's all these wealthy men, it's just a bit unnerving. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's slightly different, but I find these kinds of topics interesting as well. So I hope you do too. And thank you so much for listening or watching, and I'll hopefully see you again sometime soon. Night night.